Welcome to The Funnel. My name is John Shea, and I'm president of Alignment Group. This is episode number 225 of The Funnel, Why Sales Training Fails and How to Fix It. Before we get started, I want to remind you to head on over to alignment-group.com/The Funnel. You can also go to the sales library. I say library? Library. And download the Best of the Funnel and Insights ebook. I have a whole ebook on the 6-step sales hiring process. So it gives you quick access to all 7 podcasts. You just click the link and there's a little paragraph on each one of them, and all the blogs we've written on it, so you don't have to go back and do a search. If you're looking for how to hire a sales rep, this is the perfect ebook for it. It walks you through each step of the process for hiring a sales rep. Today's agenda: the cost, reinforcement, accountability, management, and the fix. So let's get started with the cost. And I'm sure you've heard some of these numbers before, but it costs quite a bit to train salespeople. Companies spend close to $20 billion on sales training a year. And no one really knows what the return on investment is. Most people don't track it. It's actually kind of interesting. They spend all this money and they don't track it. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't want to know how bad a decision they made. They don't have any mechanism for doing that. These are all kind of based on an event, right? We're bringing someone in to do this for a week, or we're bringing someone in to do this at our annual meeting for 2.5 days, and we're going to kind of train you on it, and off you go. So we think real kind of short term. There's not a whole lot of long-term thoughts about the impact of sales training and what it does to the sales team. I'm going to tell you a cost that you cannot factor, but it's there. Every time you do something like this and you don't get a return on it, and they're not doing it, and it's not implemented, and we'll go through this in this whole podcast, you're setting a precedent with your sales team. And the longer those people are with your company, the certain people are with your company, the harder it is to get them to do anything. Why? Because historically you don't follow through. Historically, you make them show up for these meetings and then nothing happens. They just wait you out, and it gets harder and harder and harder to implement any kind of change. And you get more and more resistance. And oftentimes companies will sit on that because their salespeople are performing at a high level and they don't want to upset the apple cart. Now, I kind of agree with the sales reps on this, that if you're going to put me through this stuff over and over and over again, and you don't reinforce it, it provides no long-term benefit to me, I'm not getting anything out of it, then why should I step up the next time you ask me to? Right? I mean, you got to look at it from their point of view. It makes sense. And if you're a new manager coming in and you're asking this of them, you have to draw a line in the sand. I'm not going to say a red line. You have to draw a line in the sand. You have to say to them, this is where it ends. I'm going to follow through and you're going to follow through. I understand there's a high cost to this in dollars and in credibility to you and the company. Let's talk about reinforcement. Most of you have been in any kind of formal schooling, high school, college. You know the difference between learning a subject matter and cramming for a test. If you're really interested in the course and you're in tune and you're engaged and you're a great professor and you're learning a lot, you're taking notes and you're asking questions and you're not only reading what's in front of you because you have to, you're going the extra mile and learning more about it because it interests you. That's learning. That's sort of reinforcing the process, right? Then there's the class you go to and you show up and you take notes and you can barely stay awake It takes all of your energy to focus, and you cram the night before the test to get through the test. You might get a B or a C, pass the test, and some of you brainiacs, like I had a roommate that had a photographic memory, and Jim could just open the book, read it the night before, and get an A on the test. I hated him for that. But he didn't really retain the information, right? It was a photographic memory. He crammed for the test. He got the A, but he really didn't understand the subject matter. And the same with you. You cram for a test. 3 weeks later, it's gone. History. Okay? That's not good. Reinforcement proves to be successful. Ongoing learning and over again reinforcing it and talking about it helps your sales reps implement the training. If you don't provide reinforcement, you're losing. They won't retain it. They'll go back to their original behaviors because it's easier. Just the basics of teaching someone how to use a CRM is maddening without reinforcement. Right? Oh, here's how to use it. Now leave. Now, I know how I work with folks. I find out their pain points, the sales team, what's most important to them, and we go after the low-hanging fruit, and we teach them that first. I'm just giving you an example in a CRM. And then we have them reinforce it for the next meeting, and we talk about it, and they email me and ask me questions if they get stuck, and you can see the light bulb going on. You lose like 50 to 60% within the first, month of learning something. And after 90 days, it's pretty much gone without any reinforcement. So you spend all that money on training. It's gone. It's forgotten. And there's nothing you can do about it. So you spend all that money on training, and without any reinforcement, 90 days, the whole thing is gone. They've forgotten it. Let's talk about accountability. Accountability is critical here. And I'm going to talk about accountability from two sides of the coin, okay? For the sales rep and the managers. And we'll talk about management in a second. But accountability goes hand in hand with this. You cannot implement a sales training program without accountability standards. What bad thing happens if they don't do it? Now, your admin people and your marketing people will tell you, well, they'll just hold back their commissions. They won't get paid if they don't do it. Okay. Silliness. That's just silliness. You don't do that to people. You don't mess with their money. How about this, Mr. Accounting Department person? You don't get a report on time. We're going to hold back your paycheck. How about that? How about marketing? You do something and it doesn't yield the results we want. We're not paying you. That's silly. Holding back commissions. So what do? Well, there are consequences for your actions. If there's no follow-up or no follow-through, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, then we're going to have a meeting and talk about it. Right? That's step one. Step two is if you still don't do it, then we're going to have to kind of treat you a little bit like a baby and bring you in and have you sit down and do your CRM stuff every day in the morning and in the afternoon, or we'll have a conference call if you're regional or a national rep. I mean, those are the things we're going to have to do. And we're not going to have discussions on your pipeline if the notes and the information is not in the system. And we're slowly going to ramp that up, ultimately to the point where someone loses their job. Somebody said, wow, what's the difference between that and not paying them? Well, for one, that's the end of the line if they haven't done it and they haven't followed through, and et cetera, et cetera. It's not at the beginning. Firing somebody a week after we did training because they didn't do everything they were supposed to do in the system. But the point is we have a plan for accountability. And if we don't, and we go into training, then It's a mess. And I'm going to tell managers and business owners a couple of things. As you begin to go down this road, don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't make empty promises or threats that you can't deliver on. It's like, when you're really mad at your kids and you punish them and take everything in the world away for something silly. Makes you look bad. Think about what you're going to do, how you're going to hold them accountable, and if you can meet that, then do it. If you can't, you ought to think about the whole training thing. Don't waste your money. Management. So this is where it gets a little wonky. And I learned this years ago when I was VP of sales. We actually had the managers trained first. We had a lot of meetings with the company that we brought in to help us with sales training. We put the managers on the spot there. We went through some management meetings to discuss where the biggest gaps in the areas of concern were so they could customize the training. And we spent some time training them on the process, integrating them into it, and giving them the book and having them read the book, and et cetera, et cetera. And then when the classes started, they were part of the classes, and then we mixed them up with different team members. So they weren't just with their team. And we brought small groups in and did the training. And it was facilitated by somebody from the company, and it seemed to help. It did helped a lot. Management, if they're not trained first, it's a problem. If there are no requirements on management with the sales training, it's maybe they're not actively involved in it. That's a recipe for disaster, but that's what happens. They're not actively involved. They don't think they need it. And then they don't know what to do to coach towards it. So they don't have no coaching experience in this training, and it gets left by the wayside. They have no clue as to what to do. So think about that. If your managers if they're not required to do the training and they're not trained first, there's no requirements on them, how are they going to coach to this? How are they going to support the effort? How are they going to support what you're spending your money on? And if you own the company and you're paying for this, well, I paid for you to go to training. My gut, I'm telling you, go through the training. Understand it yourself. So you know how to coach on it, because you're not going to have success if you try it the other way. Well, I'm a manager. I got this far. I don't need it. Yeah, you do. Your job is to reinforce it. So managers play an important role in this, in the accountability and in the training. So what's the fix? Well, to some degree, it's kind of what we've talked about in reverse here, right? So first things first. Managers need to be trained first. They need to understand exactly what it is they're getting into. So if you own the company and you have a couple salespeople, you're a small company, you need to understand this stuff before you bring it to your sales team. So either you go through the training or read the book or have a series of meetings ahead of time so you really understand what it is you're implementing. And you build out those accountability standards for the managers, with the managers. This is how we're going to hold the team accountable. These are the consequences for the actions. This is our expectations. Next thing is coaching is a requirement. You can't just take some time off from coaching. You have to coach this. You have to develop it, to reinforce it. So you need to coach. I've done some podcasts on coaching and blogs. You can read about it and listen to them. Just go check it out on my podcast page or my blog page, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You should be spending most of your time coaching your team. So this has to be blended into the coaching requirement. The training. It's part of the reinforcement. Make job aids and tools available to them and make it easy for them to access those job aids and tools. It's that simple. Understand the jobs aids and tools yourself, and if you need to make a little bit of adjustment on those to fit how you operate as a company, then do that. Implement it into the CRM, add it as part of the process. Those are the things that you should do, and you should get that done ahead of time. Not say, hey, in 3 months we'll have this done. No. Managers going through the training, they understand it. They understand the accountability standards. You've built all that out. They know exactly what's going to happen if people don't do what they're supposed to do. They started building the job aids and tools into the CRM, so when they do the training, it's available. They've made whatever tweaks and changes to it to adjust to how you operate as a company, so it's ready to go. When you do the training, spread it out over an extended period of time. Don't do it in large chunks. 2.5 days, 3 days, 5 days. Do it over a long period of time in smaller chunks. Why? Because you can talk about specific field actions, things that have gone on in the field as they relate to what you're learning. Real world, real time information versus a canned program that says A plus B equals C. And you have a standard case that you follow through, and in the end, you win the deal. That's silly. It's like a drama on television. There's the beginning part, the problem. It's a murder mystery show. Somebody gets murdered. Then the detective has to come in and figure it out, and there's twists and turns, and oh boy, we don't know if this is going to happen. And at the end of the show, they catch the murderer. Everybody's happy until next week when somebody else dies. And they start it all over again. And the whole world is fixed in 60-minute increments. It doesn't work that way here. You don't win every deal. You run into problems, things you never thought of. That's how you can work through in a smaller setting where the classes are laid out over a longer period of time. You're talking about stuff that's happening in the field as we speak. Create facilitated reinforcement. What does that mean? Facilitated reinforcement, simple. You have meetings. We used to have our meetings every Monday. The entire sales team, all the managers, CFO, sometimes the chief operating officer. The owner of the company was there every week. And we went over a variety of things. Some of it in-house stuff, some of it product training, some of it sales training. It's the perfect place to do facilitated reinforcement. Small chunks, 15 minutes. Boom, 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 you're in and out. You train them. You focus on it. You get feedback for some more experienced reps and managers. Everybody participates. Everybody learns. You can do that in the field, when you're coaching, in the car, before an appointment, after an appointment. After something's happened, you can talk about it, or before you go in, you can do some of that reinforcement. Then, of course, your one-on-one meetings. Again, small little increments. They don't have to be big. Make the e-learning available if that's what you're using. So you can do an e-learning class and then facilitate a reinforcement the next Monday. Again, don't make them 2-3 hour sessions. People lose their minds. Small little increments. Keep following up. Keep reinforcing it. If you have your managers do it first, there's a coaching requirement. There's accountability standards in place. The job tools and job aids are built ahead of time, right? It's all done, ready to go. Not 3 months from now. Yeah, we're going to get to that. No, you do it ahead of time. You make adjustments or changes to it to fit whatever your company does. You build it into the CRM if necessary. You create facilitated reinforcement, and you provide access to all the e-learning. That's how you fix it. It's that simple. Not everybody's going to do that. And that's where your reps, the senior reps, the reps been around a while, will wait you out. They're waiting for you to drop the ball or forget about it and not reinforce it. I've been down this road before. Just show up. Eventually they'll forget about it and move on, and then we can go back to doing what we've always done. Hold the line. That's how you get improvement. That's how you grow. That's how you sell more stuff. Thank you for subscribing to The Funnel, alignment-group.com/The Funnel. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter @JJohnR, LinkedIn, of course. Contact me, jshea@alignment-group.com. Website is alignment-group.com. Thank you for subscribing, and as always, keep filling the funnel.